One day, my life took a dramatic and terrifying turn when a massive shark, its sleek, predatory form cutting through the water like a living blade, lunged at me with ferocious intent, its jagged, razor-sharp teeth glinting menacingly as they sank deep into my flesh, piercing straight through my aorta, the vital artery that courses lifeblood through every inch of my body. Blood erupted from the wound in a violent spray, staining the surrounding water a deep, ominous crimson, and any ordinary person would have been consumed by sheer panic, their mind racing with the primal urge to escape or fight back against the jaws of death. But I wasn't ordinary. Not anymore. And instead of fear or rage, a strange, almost perverse joy welled up inside me, a twisted satisfaction that defied all reason or instinct. With a calm that bordered on madness, I made a choice no sane person would even consider. I rewarded that savage beast with a grand, lavish feast, setting before it a table groaning under the weight of succulent meats, rich delicacies, and bountiful offerings. A spread so extravagant it could have sated a king and his entire court for days. Why, you might ask, would I do something so utterly bizarre, so counterintuitive, feeding the very creature that had nearly torn me apart? The answer was as astonishing as it was simple. I had stumbled upon a secret, a phenomenon so incredible it rewrote the very fabric of my existence. As that shark gorged itself on the meal I provided, tearing into the flesh with ravenous delight, something miraculous began to happen. My own physical strength surged uncontrollably, my muscles swelling with raw, untamed power, my body growing tougher, faster, and more resilient with every bite it took. It was as if its act of consumption fueled me directly, unlocking a hidden reservoir of energy buried deep within my core, transforming me into something far beyond the limits of a mere human, something primal and unstoppable. This wasn't some random stroke of luck or a fleeting anomaly. It was tied to something far greater, a persistent vision that had haunted my nights for a decade, 10 long, unyielding years where sleep became a gateway to the same vivid, inescapable dream. Every evening, as the world around me faded into the quiet stillness of night and my eyelids grew heavy, I slipped into a realm so real it felt like a parallel existence, a second life unfolding in the shadows of my mind. In that dream, a colossal monster dominated the scene, its immense hulking form towering over the earth, stretching across the heavens like a dark, living storm cloud, blotting out the sun with its sheer, oppressive presence and casting a suffocating shroud of darkness over everything below. The city around me, a sprawling, vibrant metropolis, descended into utter chaos, its orderly streets and gleaming towers reduced to a battlefield of terror. Buildings crumbled into heaps of rubble, their foundations shattered by unseen forces. Pavement split apart like brittle glass, swallowing cars and debris into gaping chasms, and the air filled with the desperate, piercing screams of people fleeing in every direction, their faces pale with dread, their eyes wide with the gut-wrenching realization that the end had come. Yet, amidst this apocalyptic pandemonium, I stood apart, untouched by the fear that gripped everyone else, my heart steady and my resolve unshaken. Instead of running or cowering, I felt a profound, almost mystical connection to that monstrous entity, a bond that pulsed through my veins like a second heartbeat, linking us as if we were two halves of a single, indomitable whole. Together, we turned the tide of destruction, wielding our combined might to confront a creeping, malevolent force that rose from the shadows, a tidal wave of darkness, thick and suffocating, threatening to drown humanity in a sea of despair and oblivion. With every strike, every roar that tore from our throats, we pushed it back, beating down the encroaching void until the world was safe once more. And in the aftermath, the survivors gazed upon me with awe and gratitude, their voices trembling as they hailed me as a godlike savior, a divine protector sent from the heavens to deliver them from annihilation. Little did they know the truth. I kept buried deep within my soul, a secret so staggering it would shatter their fragile faith in an instant. I was no hero, no benevolent deity descending to their aid. I was the greatest monstrous overlord this world had ever known, a supreme predator cloaked in the guise of a man, a being of unimaginable power hiding among them, biding my time. In the waking world, beyond the veil of those relentless nightly visions, my life couldn't have been more different, more unremarkable. I was just a sophomore college student, a second-year tenant renting a modest, slightly dilapidated apartment on the fringes of campus, living alone with nothing but my thoughts and a handful of meager possessions to keep me company My days were a predictable blur of lectures, assignments, and the quiet hum of routine. Wake up, study, eat, sleep, repeat. A stark and almost laughable contrast to the grandeur and terror that unfolded in my dreams every night. Yet those dreams had left an indelible mark on me, shaping my interests in ways I couldn't ignore, steering me toward the strange and unusual with a pull I couldn't resist. Over the years, they'd sparked a peculiar fascination within me, a deep-seated love for creatures most people found repulsive or downright terrifying. Cold-blooded animals, the kind with scales that shimmered like armor, claws that clicked against the ground, and unblinking eyes that stared into your soul with an eerie alien calm. Lizards, snakes, amphibians. I'd taken to raising them as pets, finding a strange solace in their silent, primal nature, a quiet comfort in their otherworldly presence that somehow felt like home. That passion drew me to the local pet store one crisp, fateful morning, a place I'd visited countless times before, its shelves lined with cages and tanks that hummed with the subtle vibrations of life. This time, though, was different. A new shipment of exotic animals had just arrived, their enclosures glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights, each one housing a creature more bizarre and intriguing than the last. As I wandered the aisles, my eyes scanning the labels and peering through the glass, a jolt of excitement rippled through me. I knew I had to see them up close, to find something extraordinary among this latest batch, something that would satisfy the restless curiosity those dreams had ignited within me. That's when I saw it, a creature that stopped me dead in my tracks, its presence commanding my full attention like a magnet pulling at my very soul. It was unlike anything I'd ever encountered before, a specimen so striking, so utterly unique, that it seemed to call out to me, as if fate itself had orchestrated this moment and placed it directly in my path. Little did I know, I'd just been ensnared by what I'd later come to call the sea hunting system, a mysterious force beyond my comprehension that would bind me to this animal in ways I couldn't yet imagine. The store clerk, a wiry man with a nervous smile, told me it was renowned for its gentle temperament. A docile pet, he assured me, perfect for someone like me who'd handled reptiles before. And I believed him, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and curiosity as I handed over my money. I brought it home that same day, cradling its cage in my arms, imagining the quiet bond we'd share, the peaceful companionship of yet another cold-blooded friend to add to my collection. But the moment we crossed the threshold of my apartment, the illusion shattered. Everything changed in an instant. That so-called gentle creature turned on me with a ferocity I never saw coming, its demeanor shifting from calm to savage in the blink of an eye. Its jaws snapped open with a guttural hiss, and before I could react, it sank its teeth deep into my wrist, tearing through skin and muscle with a vicious bite that sent a shockwave of searing pain coursing through my arm. Blood sprayed across the floor in a vivid arc, a stark red stain spreading like spilled ink, and my survival instincts kicked into overdrive, adrenaline flooding my system as my mind screamed at me to act. In a blind, frantic panic, I grabbed the nearest object, my phone, lying innocently on the table, and brought it crashing down onto the creature's head with all the strength I could muster, desperate to fend it off, to stop the attack before it could rip me apart entirely. But then came the twist, the moment that sealed my fate. Its tail lashed out with lightning speed, a whip-like strike that moved faster than my eyes could follow, catching me completely off guard. The blow slammed into my skull with a force that rattled my bones, a sickening crack echoing in my ears as darkness swallowed me whole, and I crumpled to the ground, unconscious, my body slumping lifelessly against the cold, unforgiving floor. When I finally came to, the world felt different. Wrong, somehow. As if reality itself had shifted while I was lost in the void. My head throbbed with a dull, relentless ache that pulsed behind my eyes. And as my vision cleared, blinking away the haze, I realized I was sprawled across the table, my wrist, a grotesque mess of torn flesh and congealed blood, the wound throbbing with every sluggish beat of my heart. The room was eerily silent, save for the faint, persistent hum of the television in the background, its screen flickering with urgent news reports that blared through the stillness. Headlines screaming about animals attacking humans, a sudden wave of bizarre, violent incidents sweeping across the globe like a plague. My mind raced, struggling to piece together the fragments of something caught my eye to make sense of the chaos that had erupted in my own home. I stumbled to my feet, my legs trembling beneath me like a newborn fawn, and staggered over to get a closer look, my breath hitching in my throat. What I saw froze me in place, a primal chill creeping up my spine as cold sweat beaded on my forehead and trickled down my face. The reflection staring back at me wasn't mine. It was Helisy, the creature I'd brought home. its reptilian features glaring through the glass with an intensity that pierced my soul. My heart pounded in my chest, a wild drumbeat against my ribs as I leaned in closer, studying every detail. The shimmering scales that caught the light, the unblinking eyes that glowed with an eerie intelligence, the jagged maw lined with teeth that could rend flesh from bone. Then, 2.5 minutes later, a sudden clarity snapped me awake, my consciousness surging back to life like a dam breaking, flooding me with awareness. I locked eyes with the beast in the mirror, and in that moment, we both understood. I was no longer just myself, no longer confined to the frail limits of a human body. A wave of shock washed over me, mirrored in Helisie's gaze, because I realized I could feel its body as if it were my own. I could control it, move its limbs with a thought, flex its claws with a twitch, as naturally as I moved my own right or left hand, the sensation seamless and instinctive. Was this my golden finger, my cheat code to power, the kind of gift every hero in a story dreams of possessing? But the more I dwelled on it, the more I saw the bitter irony. Other people's golden fingers turned them into noble saviors, legendary figures destined to cleanse the universe of evil, perhaps even growing into towering trees of divine might that purified the cosmos. Me? I got a lizard, a monstrous, scaly thing with no apparent abilities beyond some vague, intangible spiritual link, nothing flashy or grand to show for it, nothing that screamed hero or legend in the way I'd always imagined. That realization hit me hard, a mix of disbelief and dark humor settling into my bones as I stood there, staring at the creature that had become both my attacker and my mirror. Halfway through processing it all, my stomach let out a loud, insistent growl, a reminder of the physical world snapping me back to reality. I glanced out the window and noticed the sun had shifted, its light dimming into late afternoon, and it dawned on me that I'd been unconscious for an entire day, lost to the world while my body lay sprawled in the wreckage of my apartment. I didn't know what Helisie ate, didn't have the faintest clue what sustained a creature like this. But it was a lizard, wasn't it? And lizards eat meat. That much I could bank on. A safe bet rooted in basic biology. So, shaking off the lingering dizziness, I shuffled to the kitchen, my movements sluggish but determined, and set to work with the skills I'd honed over years of living alone. I pulled out every scrap of meat I had, chicken, beef, whatever was in the fridge, and cooked it up with a practiced hand, seasoning it lightly, frying it to perfection until the air filled with the savory aroma of a meal fit for a beast. Sure enough, when I set the platter down in front of Helisie, its reaction was immediate and visceral. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air, and a glistening trail of drool dripped from its maw, pooling on the floor as it eyed the food with unrestrained hunger. It dove in without hesitation, tearing into the meat with savage delight, and I watched, half fascinated, half repulsed, as it devoured every last morsel. But then came the miracle, the moment that turned my world upside down yet again. As Helisie ate, I felt something shift within me, a sensation I couldn't quite place, until I realized I couldn't feel its fullness, couldn't sync with the satisfaction of its meal. Instead, a transparent box flickered into existence before my eyes, hovering in the air like a hologram, its edges glowing faintly. Words appeared within it, crisp and clear. Clone gained 5 evolution points through eating, physique plus 0.5. I blinked, stunned, my mind reeling as I tried to process what I'd just read. Evolution points? Physique increases? Before I could recover from the shock, another box appeared, larger this time, its surface displaying a detailed array of attributes: strength, agility, endurance, and a progress bar labeled Core Skill Upgrade, pulsing faintly as if alive. It hit me then, a revelation that sent my thoughts spiraling. As long as Helisie kept devouring, kept evolving, my own physique, my very essence, could grow stronger too, a symbiotic link that tied my fate to this creature's insatiable hunger. That discovery jolted me back to a memory, a fragment of my past that surfaced unbidden in the wake of this madness, words my father had spoken to me long ago before he vanished from my life. He'd been a stern man, weathered by years I couldn't fathom, and he'd often sat me down as a child, his voice low and gravelly, to impart lessons about strength and discipline. "Practice your fists, boy, but if you don't train your spirit, your effort's wasted. It'll all come to nothing in the end," he'd say, his eyes glinting with a fire I didn't understand back then. But he never got the chance to teach me how to train that spirit, how to harness whatever he saw in me. One day, Without warning, he called me to his side, pressed a thick wad of cash into my hands, his entire savings, every penny he'd scraped together, and told me he had to go, that he was setting out on a long journey, one he might not return from. "Don't let your martial arts go to waste," he urged, his voice heavy with something unspoken, a weight I couldn't decipher. I asked him how I'd ever find him again, a kid's desperate plea to hold on to the only family I had left, and he looked at me with those piercing eyes, his face unreadable. "Wait till you're a grandmaster," he said. "But by then, I might not be here anymore." Then he turned, pushed open the door with a creak that echoed in my ears, and walked out into the night, his silhouette swallowed by the shadows. He never came back. 10 years had passed since that moment, a decade of silence and unanswered questions, a promise I'd nearly forgotten buried beneath the grind of everyday life. But now, with Helice's arrival, with this strange, monstrous power awakening within me, that promise flared back to life, a spark of hope igniting in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I could find him again, could follow the path he'd left behind and uncover the truth of where he'd gone. Fueled by that thought, I threw myself into action, determined to test the limits of this newfound bond. After Helice's feast, I checked the system again. 15 evolution points had accumulated, a steady climb from his ravenous eating. And when I caught my reflection in the mirror, something had changed. My body looked different, stronger somehow, more defined than it had ever been. With a mix of curiosity and disbelief, I lifted my shirt, and there they were. 8 solid, chiseled abs rippling across my stomach, a testament to the power coursing through me. Just a few more points, I realized, and Helice could complete his first evolution, a transformation that might push us both even further. Excitement surged through me, a thrill I couldn't contain, and I headed straight to the market, weaving through the bustling stalls to buy heaps of fresh ingredients, slabs of meat, piles of fish, anything I could get my hands on. Back home, I cooked up another feast, my hands moving with precision as I grilled and seasoned, filling the apartment with the rich scent of sizzling food. When I set it before Helice, he couldn't resist. His eyes gleamed with hunger, and in under 2.5 minutes, he'd devoured it all, every last bite vanishing down his gullet. Afterward, he lumbered out to the balcony, sprawling lazily in the sun to bask, while I headed to the dojo, a small rundown room I'd claimed for training, eager to see how far my body could go. I threw a casual punch, nothing fancy, just a test, and the impact reverberated through the air, the system chiming in my mind. 5 EXP added to my Bajikwan, the martial art I'd practiced since I was a kid. My enhanced physique wasn't just raw strength, it accelerated my cultivation, speeding up my growth in ways I'd never imagined. So I locked myself in that dojo for 2 days straight, pushing my limits, and by the end, I could kick a sandbag clean apart with one blow, my current realm hitting what the system called Spiegel's Peak, a level of mastery I'd only dreamed of before. My father had once told me about the Inspired Realms, a hierarchy of martial prowess he'd explained in hushed tones when I was young. "It's divided into 3 stages," he'd said, his voice steady as he traced invisible lines in the air. "Bright Mirror, Dark Mirror, and Transformation. Near the peak of Bright Mirror, you're a master, 1 against 10, a force to be reckoned with. Dark Mirror makes you top tier, 1 against 100, a legend whispered about in family tales. Transformation? That's 1 against 1,000, the kind of power etched into history books, rare as a phoenix feather. Beyond that, there's the sword gods, but they're just myths, shadows in ancient texts. No one's seen one in the flesh." He'd paused then, his gaze distant, and added, "I touched Dark Mirror once, just for a moment." I'd been a kid, wide-eyed and buzzing with excitement, and I'd asked if he came from some secret lineage, some hidden clan of warriors. His pupils shrank, a flicker of something dark crossing his face, before he sighed and said, "I'm from Luotong. That's all you need to know." Then he left, and I never got the rest of the story. Emerging from the dojo now, I saw Helice's size had ballooned to nearly 2 meters. Just one more meal, and he'd evolve. I fixed him a plate of raw steak, watching as his evolution points climbed with every bite, until the final piece triggered it. Golden cracks split across his right arm, the evolution beginning, and a sharp pain lanced through my own arm, syncing with his transformation. When it finished, 2.5 minutes later, he spewed a strange, shimmering substance, and I tested his power. Shaking my arm, his tail burst a sandbag apart, a display of raw, monstrous strength that doubled my own attributes. Was this doubling a fluke, tied to my weak base, or would every evolution amplify me exponentially? If the latter, this was beyond anything I'd ever imagined. A power that could break the world. Turning back, I froze. Helisy had freed himself, moving on his own, and then came rapid knocks at the door, a burly man swearing and pounding the wood. I opened it calmly, and my aura, honed by years of dreams and newfound might, made him tremble, his bravado crumbling as he stammered about upstairs noise, asking if I was renovating. I scratched my head, grinning sheepishly, and said, "No, just exercising." He muttered something about earthquakes, peeked inside at the chaos, and bolted, apologizing profusely. Helisy's size had outgrown the apartment. I drove him to a beach, seeking a safe haven, closing my eyes to sense chi, a skill I'd picked up from my father's lessons. Following him into the sea, my 10-meter chi sense spotted a 5-eyed mutant fish, my first prey today. Diving fast, I knocked it out with a tail wave, eating it for 10 evolution points and 1 system point. Mutants were 10 times richer than normal food. Hunting more, I hit 100 points, the daily cap. And since Helisy couldn't stay submerged long, we found an undersea cave in a mountain range, perfect for him. Driving home, I passed a cabin with women begging for help. I ignored it, sensing watchers who relaxed as I left, re-gagging her. But I'd circled back, chi revealing 3 armed men. Kicking down a titanium door, I felled 2 instantly. One gut kicked, the bald leader's sneak attack breaking ribs on my elbow. Then Nin Fu, a self-proclaimed Viet King knight, stepped in. I countered his bold strike, flipping him with Bajikwan's Iron Mountain, sending him 30 meters. He grinned, thrilled to meet an 8th-tier Luotong master, but raged when I mocked his skills, lunging to blind me. I kicked out his teeth, killing him. Freeing the woman, I asked her to hide my face from the cops. She agreed, smitten. Cops later deduced a 1,000 kg force from the wreckage, beyond human limits. Parking at the beach, I overheard Zhang, who'd paid $1 million for that woman, planning to salvage Rex with water-breathing powers. Confronting him, I knocked him 800 meters, mind-controlling him after. He ran a smuggling ship, now mine, its resources feeding Helisy's growth as I trained, aware I wasn't alone in power. Targeting sharks, a great white bit me. I killed it, triggering Helisy's 2nd evolution, sinking my physique to 13 times normal, reaching Dark Mirror's peak with water affinity and 700 km/h speed. Sending Helisy deeper, his 20 km senses found endless resources, freeing me to relax, until I saw thugs harass a drunk woman. One kick sent them 200 meters, and I helped her till cops arrived, then salvaged a wreck, bagging gold and a tough shard. A giant beast attacked. I slew it, testing my 1.5-ton punches, upgrading to 3-ton with Bajikwan. Selling the gold for 4.5 million, I bought a Range Rover, stunning my ex, then feasted at a hotel. School loomed, so Helisy hunted swordfish, boosting my senses further. Taking Zhang's Lux Company, staffed by beauties, I sent 4 eyes to sea, my physique soaring as Helisy ate a mutant moray, 10-fold growth, rare prey. Staff gossiped. I treated them to a 48,088 yuan meal, then trained, hitting 5-ton punches with steel guards, control shaky. Busting a drug deal, Helisy sank their boat, nabbing 3 million cash. Next day, mid-briefing, Transo texted, "Last registration day." Driving to school, my Range Rover went viral, a blonde recognizing me as her savior. Ordering 100 tons of steel for a dojo, I trained as cops puzzled over Helisy's claw marks. Wang Tianhua offered a wreck deal, 15 million from Jade Relics, my crew idling on 30,000 monthly. Li Tianrui, Tianhong's VP, joined next, selling my tuna for 7 million. I splurged, eyeing a mansion. Helisy fought a giant crab, growing to 18 meters mid-meal.